Good morning, everyone. I am in a little bit of a rush this morning, so I will only be able to answer. Hang on, let's see that focus. There we go. I will only be able to answer a few questions. So I'm just going to run through three questions, 5-10 minutes, and then yeah, I'll leave you to it. But hopefully, I can do a longer one tomorrow. I've just got a really busy day. I've got a load of things to do. So let's get into it. First question is from Instagram. Achilles pain from running. Should I stretch or ice it? So the first thing I would say with Achilles pain is more than likely, if you have Achilles pain, you have what's called, or you're starting to develop what's called an Achilles tendinopathy. So essentially your Achilles tendon behind the back of your ankle is getting irritated. And the reason tendons get irritated is because likely you're doing a lot more than you were doing previously. This is very common in people who start running or who suddenly do a lot more running than usual if they're training for like a long distance event. So the main thing here is to decrease the amount of running you're doing by maybe 10-20%. And that's the first thing. That's the main thing. Then there's a few other things. How often and how heavy are you training your calves? They have a massive impact on the load and kind of spreading the load evenly between the calves and the Achilles. And if you don't have very strong calves, more than likely you can be putting just a bit more stress on the Achilles than is needed. So the simplest way to train your calves is, if you're a runner, twice a week, one straight knee calf raise on a single leg, and you're going to do 3 sets of 5 reps on each leg. So nice and heavy. And then the second variation on another day with 2 to 3 days rest in between would be a bent knee calf raise on a single leg. Again, 3 sets of 5 reps. So you're going really heavy here. This is more to prevent Achilles pain, because if you try to load calf raises really heavy and you've got an irritable Achilles, you're not going to be able to do it without having a lot of pain. So if you're in that stage and you can't do calf raises without minimal pain, then you can just do some isometric holds in the top of a calf raise or in different positions in a calf raise. And that's what I'd recommend doing. So simply just holding it for 30 to 45 seconds in different positions at the calf raise, depending on what you can manage. The other thing with Achilles pain is just looking at the rest of your lower body strength and mobility. So looking at your hip mobility, or looking at your hip strength, so glutes, adductors, abductors, muscles around your groin, your quad strength, your hamstring strength, all these different things, because running is obviously a very high impact activity, and a lot of muscles in the lower body take up to 8 to 10 times body weight when you are running. So it's important to get those nice and strong and make sure we haven't got any significant difference side to side on each leg. I think a 90% kind of like only a 10% difference is okay. So 90% symmetry between sides in terms of strength. But anything less than that, I would say you probably need to work on a little bit and do more single leg stuff on each side to build up that. With running, the easiest way to do that is, again, strength training twice a week. So alongside those calf raises, it would be classic strength work in the gym, squats, deadlifts, leg extensions, hamstring curls, all really, really good options, and not particularly fatiguing if you program them right and only do a few sets and go quite heavy. So that's the first question. Second question, hip flexor tightness from sitting all day. Any suggestions or remedies, they say. So first question to ask yourself is, are your hip flexors really getting tight because you're sitting all day? More than likely, no. There's probably some other things going on. One of the first things I would look at with hip flexor tightness is how well and how strong are the other muscles around your hip. So how well can you use your glutes? Do you feel your glutes in a lot of exercises? Can we get these stronger? How often do you train your hip flexors? That's another thing to question. A lot of people think they train them with sit-ups, and you do a little bit, but I'm talking about things like a cable attachment, where you put a cable attachment around your ankle, and then you're almost doing like a high knee drill to actively train your hip flexor. That's another thing to consider. And then another thing would be just general hip mobility and assessing that. But it's definitely not from sitting all day. It's probably just from being in one position for a long period of time that could potentially be contributing to it. But more than likely, yeah, I would say it's more of a strength and mobility issue that probably could be remedied. What I would say though, if you are sitting for long periods of time, just try to change position if you can, maybe every hour, and stand up for a little bit instead. That should really help. Third question. This will be the last one I answer in the live. Shin splints from running again. Currently doing 2 to 3 runs a week at the moment. Okay, so this is a bit open-ended because I don't really know what you're training for. But if you're getting shin splints from running, the first thing again is load management. So decreasing the amount of running you're doing by 10 to 20%. And then a big thing with shin splints is actually improving your foot mobility and improving how you contact the ground when you're running and how you improve the foot sensation. So the simplest way to explain this, I've actually got a foot on me, so this is a lot easier to explain. There we go. So this is your foot. Let's go side on, and you've got your little arch here. Most people have got a small arch. And essentially when we're running, when we're walking, as you land, as you strike when you're walking, the middle of your foot should actually roll in, and this arch should collapse a little bit. So if we're kind of facing that way, straight on, we should almost collapse inwards that way a little bit. And then as we come back out, then we'll go onto the outside of our foot and we create that arch again. So all we want to do is get this midfoot mobilized. And what you'll find is in a lot of other exercises, for example, when you squat and you bend your knee and that knee comes over the toe, so the knee comes that way. Again, we want to try collapse this arch in the middle of the foot and get the middle of the foot moving. So just rotating it like that. Improving that mobility will then get your midfoot pressure a lot better, and you'll be able to contact the ground a lot better. Because a lot of people run on the balls of their foot, which is actually incorrect. And actually you need to be a lot more flat-footed sometimes, because then you can get more pressure through the middle of your foot. And actually, if you think about it in terms of physics, if you have more surface area hitting the ground, you'll get more force going back up. So it's actually a more efficient way to run. So again, as you strike when you're running, when you're walking, this is the right leg. This, you should be getting inward foot pressure. And then as you come back out, outward foot pressure, in and out. And a lot of people struggle to really control that and control the collapse on the arch and then bring it back up. And this is called pronation, rolling in, and then supination, rolling out. So hopefully that answers that question. It's a little bit difficult to explain, to be honest, on the stream. So yeah, that's all the questions I'm answering this morning. If you want 33 days of free injury advice that's going to change the way you think about injuries and it's really going to help you out, just check out the top link down below. If not, I will catch you guys tomorrow. And yeah, I'll definitely do a longer one and answer a few more questions then.